Oh, I just wanted to say that I was introduced to Tantra through the Tibetan practices, and we were always like told, you know, unless you have a firm grounding in ethics, in your vows, in the study of shunyata, you can't practice Tantra. You're not actually practicing Tantra. And I think even though there was problems in the greater Sangha that I was involved in, that kind of core is what saved a lot of us from a lot of trouble, and has been helping me, honestly, to recover from some stuff that happened within these communities. So I know that all Tantra comes from India, but I just wanted to mention this because definitely there's a different flavor in the Tibetan practices and the way that it's taught, and then the way it's been taught here.
Thank you. Thank you, Michelle. When you say different flavor, do you want to elaborate on that? Or yeah, I'm just curious, that's all.
Yeah, like just I've never been directly taught within a yoga class. Like it just feels like when we're doing our stuff here, I'm like, oh, this is wonderful and very integrated. But I haven't been in this community for a long time, so I mean I don't hear a lot of talk about dependent origination and stuff like that, and I don't know how that ties in together. So that's all that's where I'm differentiating, and I realize I haven't been around here for a long time.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. So here the focus, like again noticed, is more on the physical practice, because sometimes we can all be great intellectuals and get trapped in the mind. So that's why there's less talk and more work, so to speak. And of course, along the way, as we deepen our practice, then of course there's a lot more understanding of the tantric texts and going deeper. But I've seen that this approach worked, even for me, it worked a lot, because there are all these really high concepts, and sometimes we can be misled if the grounding is not there. And that's why the body, being rooted in the body, is so important, understanding the intelligence of the body, and most importantly, honoring that inner child, which is there. And I've seen many people have negated that inner child and re-traumatized that inner child if they're moving too fast on their path. Even that can become a trauma where, it becomes I wouldn't say competition, but kind of a competition towards enlightenment, or a competitiveness, and saying, oh, I have to drop. For example, last week in the teacher training, we were having this discussion on identity. And one of the people in the teacher training said, oh yeah, I had to deal with it on a very intellectual level in another retreat, and it really jarred my system. Whereas when we were talking about shunyata through the breath, which means the held in breath is kumbhaka, or fullness, the held out breath is shunyaka, or nothingness. So it is this dance of everything and nothing that we're playing in both yoga and tantra, but we're doing it in a very unconscious, or I would say in a way that's very integrated into our emotional life. The breath very intimately connected with our emotions. So when we do that, then it's quite gentle and in line with that inner child. It's not rattling that inner child into dropping whatever we need to drop. So that can sometimes happen when the parent, like usually I use the analogy of the mind being a parent. That can happen when the parent alone says, oh, I have to drop this, I have to drop that. And intellectually you're sifting through things. And that discussion came up, and a couple of people, more than a couple of people in the teacher training were saying, yeah, it was quite jolting to have to deal with it only on an intellectual level. So here we're dealing with it in an integrated level. And that's gentler. For me, I prefer a gentler practice for myself. And then you can always amp it up. You can always amp it up when you're ready, when your nervous system can hold that pranic current. Otherwise, we're going to short circuit ourselves. I've seen that many, many times. I started really young and I was part of many ashrams, and I've seen that short circuiting happening for many people, even through practice, when it's not or when it's not approached in the right way. And it creates a split or a schism in the person. Here they're talking all these wonderful spiritual things, and they've attained a certain level of clarity, but because the body is not moved in tandem or in line with that, the body is behaving completely differently. Maybe they have certain addictions or certain, patterns or certain abusive, vampiristic tendencies. And I'm like, oh my God, this person's lecture was so great. Why are they behaving like this? So, and like I said, I got into it 30 plus years ago. So I had the good fortune of observing that and saying, okay, why is this happening? And therefore, a gentler path, a path where we slow down, to me feels more appropriate. So thank you for that question. I think it's very, very relevant in terms of why certain traditions or certain teachers take a different approach.
Thank you. I love that response too. It struck me as true.